Raven's black-painted claws froze on her collarbone, ears shooting straight up as she whispered, "You're my new roommate?" And that was the exact moment Liam realized his quiet, predictable life had just combusted. Before we dive into this cozy, romantic sci-fi story, don't forget to hit subscribe. The hallway of Building 9 smelled faintly of incense and freshly varnished wood, an odd mix that Liam couldn't quite place. His suitcase wheels squeaked against the floor as he approached Unit 904, the place he hoped would finally let him afford rent in this sprawling neon-lit city. The listing had been vague, cheap, suspiciously cheap. But standing outside the door, listening to the soft pulse of music from inside, dark, slow, echoing, Liam felt something shift. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to meet the most fascinating person he'd ever lived with. Liam Clark had moved 3 times in the past year, each time pushed a little farther out of the city center by rent spikes that felt personally vindictive. He worked as a diagnostic tech, one of those jobs that paid just enough to live, but not quite enough to live comfortably. So when he spotted the listing titled, "Quiet Roommate Wanted," respectful, no loud cooking after 10, rent split evenly, he messaged instantly. There had been no video call, no profile picture, just a short, polite text. "Apartment is clean. I work nights. Move in welcome anytime." He expected a guy with noise-canceling headphones and an obsession with herbal tea. Maybe a grad student, maybe a hermit. He did not expect the door to swing open and reveal her. The first thing he noticed was the hair, a wild mane of deep orange streaked with black, messy in a deliberate, stylishly apocalyptic way. Then came the tall, pointed fox ears rising from it, each tipped in charcoal. Her eyes were striking, dark silver rims with amber irises that seemed to glow under the soft lamp behind her. Her outfit was full goth, a black choker with tiny silver spikes, a sleeveless top with lace edges, and long dark nails that shimmered under the apartment lights. And yes, there was the tail. Huge, fluffy, orange fading into black, swaying behind her in slow, uncertain arcs. She stared at him like he'd just walked out of an unexpected dream. "You're Liam?" she asked finally, voice smoky and soft. He nodded, gripping the suitcase handle tighter. "Oh, yeah, I'm Liam Clark. Hear about the room?" She blinked, then pushed a loose lock of hair behind a furry ear. "I wasn't expecting a human." He cleared his throat. "I wasn't expecting a fox woman?" she offered, expression unreadable. "That's one way to say it." Her lips twitched, barely a smile. "Well, I'm Raven Vela. I posted the listing." Her tone didn't match her appearance. Instead of sultry goth confidence, she sounded shy, soft, almost anxious, like she expected him to turn around. But Liam wasn't the type to reject someone based on species or fashion preferences that included spikes. He'd worked alongside aliens before. He'd also dated girls with dyed black hair and too many piercings. Raven was basically a combination. She stepped aside. "Come in. I'll show you the place." The apartment was shockingly tidy, minimalist, clean, and warm. Dim lighting, dark curtains, rich navy walls, and the faint smell of incense. Soft music played from somewhere deeper inside, gothic synth, slow and atmospheric. She walked with delicate, almost silent steps. "I keep to myself. I sleep during the day sometimes, work nights at a music lounge." She paused. "If you need quiet, I'm very considerate." "I'm pretty easygoing," Liam replied. "I work normal shifts. I'm out most mornings." Her tail flicked once. Nervous, he realized. The guest room was small but cozy. Decent lighting, window view of the city, bed already set up. He'd lived in worse. Far worse. Rent split evenly meant he'd actually have breathing room for the first time in months. "It's perfect," he said. Raven's ears perked. You're sure you're comfortable living with me? Are you kidding? This is the nicest apartment I've seen in ages. And you seem cool. She blinked again, like she wasn't used to hearing that. Cool, she murmured, almost testing the word. Then she did something unexpected. She gave him a tiny, genuine smile. It transformed her face completely. If that's the case, welcome, Liam. She extended her hand. He shook it, her fingers warm, nails smooth and polished. A faint spark went through him he couldn't explain. And just like that, he moved in. He didn't know Raven kept most of her life hidden. He didn't know she slept with a glowing lantern orb for comfort. He didn't know she blasted goth rock at 2 a.m. when she thought he couldn't hear. He didn't know she'd never lived with a human before. And he definitely didn't know how close they would become. For now, he only noticed one thing as she stepped back into the hallway. The way her tail brushed lightly against his hip as she passed him. He wasn't sure if it was an accident, and he couldn't tell if she noticed. But he sure did. Morning came earlier than Liam expected. He woke to the faint sound of music, soft as atmospheric, with a low thrum of bass that vibrated gently through the wall. It wasn't loud. It wasn't disruptive. Actually, it was calming. He dressed, stretched, and stepped out into the hallway, only to freeze. Raven was in the kitchen, not the goth queen from last night. No leather, no lace, no spikes. Just an oversized black t-shirt falling off one shoulder, her hair in a messy, spiky puff around her ears, tail lazily sweeping the air like she'd just rolled out of bed. And she hadn't heard him yet. She stood at the counter, holding a mug, staring at it like it was a puzzle from an alien ruin. Humans drink this every morning, she muttered to herself. Liam cleared his throat. Raven jolted, tail exploding into a round puff, so fluffy it nearly doubled in size. She spun around, eyes wide, claws lightly tapping the mug. What? You walk silently, she hissed, embarrassed. Humans aren't supposed to be stealthy. Sorry, he said, holding up both hands. Didn't mean to sneak attack. She straightened her shoulders, clearing her throat as she tried to flatten her tail back into normal shape. I was just trying your coffee machine. Trouble? Her ears flattened slightly. It insults me. He laughed softly. At what? It beeped at me. Very aggressively. He walked over and tapped the brew button. It hummed gently, then poured a steady stream into her mug. Raven leaned back as if watching a wild creature, then narrowed her eyes. It behaves for you. It's a machine, Raven. It has opinions, she insisted. And just like that, the morning awkwardness cracked open into something warm, something friendly. Liam took out ingredients to make breakfast. Raven watched him with a tilted head, like he was performing a ritual she had never encountered. You cook every morning? She asked. Pretty much. Want something? Raven blinked. You would cook for me? It's just eggs and toast. I'm not summoning demons. She hesitated before nodding. I would, like that. He cooked quietly, and she hovered near the doorway, as if afraid to stand too close. When he set a plate on the counter, she stepped forward with surprising gentleness, almost reverence. She picked up a piece of toast, sniffed it, and took a cautious bite. Her eyes widened. This is incredible. It's toast. It's incredible, she repeated, absolutely serious. As they ate, she asked him about human food, human kitchens, and human work schedules. She spoke softly, but her curiosity was endless. And then, something unexpected happened. She laughed. It was this tiny, stifled thing, like she was afraid to let it out. He had made some stupid comment about how humans weren't nearly as mysterious as the holovids made them out to be. She laughed and immediately covered her mouth. "Sorry," she muttered. "I don't usually do that." "Well, I'm filing a complaint." I moved in hoping for laughter. Raven stared at him, then slowly, like testing a foreign concept, smiled. The moment warmed the entire kitchen. Later, as he gathered dishes, she lingered in the doorway. "If you need anything," she said, "I'll be in my room." "Cool, I'll keep unpacking." She nodded but didn't move. Seconds passed. Her ears twitched. Then she blurted, "Your shower singing isn't bad." He choked on air. "You heard that?" "Vulpines hear everything," she said with a smirk that looked far too confident for her otherwise timid vibe. "But don't worry, I only laughed a little." He pointed at her. "That's illegal." Raven tilted her head. "Human laws confuse me." "You'll get used to them." Her tail swayed gently, almost thoughtful. "I'd like to." Over the next few days, their rhythm formed naturally. Liam worked morning shifts. Raven drifted through the kitchen at odd hours, usually dressed in some variation of goth comfort wear. Ripped leggings, oversized shirts, chokers with charms shaped like moons or fangs. Sometimes she'd hum along to her music. Sometimes she'd peek at what he was doing and immediately pretend she wasn't. He caught her watching human cooking tutorials late one night, her claws tapping anxiously on the counter as she tried to slice a vegetable. When he helped her adjust her grip, her ears trembled, and she whispered a tiny, "Thank you." He found her curled on the couch another evening, listening to one of his playlists. She jumped when he walked in, but didn't move away when he sat down. She smelled faintly of amber and incense. She asked him about human childhoods. He asked her about Vulpine moon festivals. They traded stories until the city lights blurred into the early hours. The distance between them shrank inch by inch, night by night. The moment that shifted things just a little more happened on a lazy afternoon. Liam returned home from work, yawning, and opened the door, and froze. Raven stood in the living room, wearing nothing but a black bralette and shorts, stretching her arms over her head. The pose exposed the lean lines of her stomach, the curve of her waist, the arch of her back. Her tail flicked lazily behind her. She hadn't heard him come in. Liam's brain short-circuited. She turned and made a sound no human vocabulary could adequately describe. Half gasp, half yelp, half furious goth fox screech. Her ears shot flat. Her tail puffed so aggressively it looked like a startled firework. She scrambled behind a pillow on the couch. "Why, are you home early?" "There was traffic and sorry and oh God." "Don't look. You're behind a pillow." "I'm mostly behind a pillow." Liam slapped a hand over his face and turned away, trying not to laugh. "I didn't see anything, I swear." "You liar." "I swear on my entire Spotify library." There was a long, suffering groan from behind the pillow. "Humans are a menace," Raven muttered. But the next time she passed him in the hallway, still embarrassed, her tail brushed his leg. Lightly, intentionally. He didn't comment. Neither did she. But everything between them felt different. A little warmer, a little braver, a little closer than roommates. Life with Raven settled into something that felt strangely natural, like gravity had just tilted slightly, and Liam was leaning into it without realizing. Every day, they discovered some tiny new detail about each other, and those little discoveries stitched their lives together in quiet, unexpected ways. One evening after work, Liam returned home to the sound of music drifting from Raven's room. Low, electronic, melancholic. He dropped his backpack on the couch and froze when he heard something else layered beneath it. Singing. Her singing. Curious, he moved closer down the hall, careful not to make noise. Raven's voice was smoky, soft, a little rough at the edges, but hypnotic. There was a vulnerability to it, like she wasn't just singing a song, but admitting something out loud she'd never dared to speak. When the music faded, he knocked gently on her door. The singing cut off. "I wasn't doing anything," she blurted. Liam smiled. "Sounded like singing to me." Silence. Then a tiny thud, like she'd lightly headbutted her bed in embarrassment. "Don't comment on it," she muttered through the door. "I liked it a lot." The door cracked open. One amber eye peeked out. "You're just being nice." "No, really. You should sing more." Her ears rose slightly, betraying how much the compliment hit. She tried and failed to hide the small, pleased flick of her tail. "Maybe. Someday. If I don't combust from embarrassment." He stepped back to give her space. "No pressure. Just letting you know you have a great voice." The door opened fully, and she emerged, dressed in a dark velvet top with a crescent moon pendant. She crossed her arms, not to be cold, but to hide how flustered she was. "What are you doing now?" she asked quickly, as if trying to change the subject before she melted. "I was going to order food," he said. "Unless you want to try cooking again?" She hissed softly at the memory. The last time she tried, she'd nearly set a towel on fire. "Your human stove hates me," she declared. "It waits for me to look away, then attacks. You bumped it with your tail. The stove started it." Liam grinned. "Food delivery it is." They ended up on the couch, sharing takeout boxes. Raven ate with surprising enthusiasm for someone who claimed most human food was too bland or too spicy or too processed or too everything. But she loved noodles. At one point, she leaned forward, strands of orange hair falling near her cheek as she slurped one up. She paused mid-slurp, noticing him staring. "What?" she said, voice muffled. "You're cute when you're confused." Half the noodle fell out of her mouth. Her eyes widened, her ears lifted, her tail shot upright. Then she inhaled sharply and accidentally sucked the noodle too fast, coughing loudly. Liam panicked. "Oh God, are you okay?" She waved him off with watery eyes. I'm fine. Just don't say things like that." "Like what?" He tried not to laugh. "That I'm..." She made vague, flustered hand gestures. "Cute." "You are, though." Her tail curled protectively around her legs. "You're impossible." But she didn't move away from him. In fact, she scooted a little closer. Over the next week, small things continued to shift between them. Raven started wandering into the living room when he watched movies. First, she'd hover awkwardly in the doorway. Then she'd sit on the opposite end of the couch. Then, somewhere in the middle. One night, they found themselves sharing a blanket. She didn't comment on it. Neither did he. But her tail gradually curled across his lap until the tip rested against his thigh. A small, warm, trusting weight. She fell asleep halfway through the movie, leaning against his shoulder. Liam didn't dare move. Her breathing was soft, slow, steady. Something peaceful he didn't want to disturb. When she eventually stirred awake, she jolted upright. Did I sleep on you?" she asked. He nodded. Raven stared at him like he'd just admitted to watching her dreams. "And you didn't shove me off?" "Why would I shove you off?" I might have drooled." "You didn't." I snored. "You didn't." "I kicked you." "Actually, you just kind of nuzzled." Raven's soul left her body. "I what?" Liam laughed. "It was cute." She buried her face in her hands, ears pressed flat. "Everything I do is cute to you." "Honestly, a lot of things are." She made a distressed noise, a mixture of groan and squeak, and stomped off to her room, tail fluffed in mortified chaos. But when she shut her door, he heard her muffled voice. "Cute?" He said cute. Another day, He found her examining his record player, really examining it, like a scientist analyzing a new galaxy. She knelt beside the spinning vinyl, her tail swishing slowly, mesmerized. "It's so analog," she whispered reverently. "It's like old magic." "You can play something," he offered. She looked genuinely startled. "Me? It's my music corner, but it can be ours." That ours hit her so hard her ears trembled. She carefully lifted a record from the shelf, the one with the dark, smoky album art she'd pointed at once, but had been too shy to ask about. She placed it gently on the turntable, lowered the needle, and gasped softly when the crackle filled the air. When the bass rolled in, slow, heavy, almost ritualistic, her eyes slowly closed, and she swayed her shoulders to the rhythm. Liam watched her, really watched her, as she moved. Her silhouette in the warm lamplight, the softness of her expression, the way music seemed to peel away the shy layers she kept around everyone else. She opened her eyes and caught him staring. Instead of panicking, she smiled, not shy this time, not embarrassed, but warm, honest, inviting. "Dance with me?" she asked quietly. Liam hesitated only because his heart skipped a beat. "I'm terrible at dancing. I don't mind." She stepped closer, placing her hand on his. Her claws were cool at the tips, her palm warm. She guided his other hand to her waist, her tail lifting slightly behind her in a slow, graceful arc. They swayed together, barely moving, just following the music. At some point, her tail wrapped lightly around his back, not fully embracing him, but resting there, comfortable and trusting. "Liam?" she whispered. "Yeah?" "Humans aren't what I thought." "What did you think? That you'd be scared of me, or annoyed, or waiting for me to be less alien?" He shook his head. "I like you exactly how you are." She swallowed softly, her forehead almost leaning against his. "Then maybe," she whispered, voice trembling in a way that wasn't fear, "maybe I shouldn't be scared either." Their dance slowed. Her breath warmed his collarbone. The air between them shifted, heavy, tender, a heartbeat away from something else. She didn't kiss him, not yet. But she didn't step away either. And when the song faded, her tail slid a little more firmly around his waist, as if choosing to stay exactly where she was. Raven had always kept her room closed, literally and emotionally. So when Liam came home one evening to find her door cracked open and soft purple light spilling into the hall, he paused. He didn't knock. He didn't want to invade her space. But then he heard her voice. "Liam?" she called softly, as if she already sensed him there. He stepped closer. "Yeah?" "Could you come in, if you want?" Her tone carried something new, uncertain, hopeful, almost apologetic. He pushed the door a little wider and stepped inside. Raven's room looked like the inside of a shadowy dream. Deep violet tapestries hung from the walls, lit by floating lantern orbs that drifted like captured stars. A few band posters, some ancient-looking vulpine scrolls, a nest of cushions and blankets. And in the middle of it all, Raven sat cross-legged on the floor, wearing something new. A black off-shoulder top with mesh sleeves, paired with loose midnight pants. Her hair was brushed out, slightly curled at the ends. She wore pale makeup around her eyes, more dramatic than usual, but softer somehow. Her tail curled neatly around her legs as she looked up at him. "I want to show you something," she said quietly. She patted the floor beside her. He sat. Raven took a slow breath. "This is one of my traditions. Well, my family's version of it. We call it a moon lantern memory ritual. Usually you do it with someone you're close to." "Close like family or friends?" She hesitated. "Someone you trust?" Her hand floated toward the glowing orb beside them. "You place a memory inside. Something small. Something real. She glanced at him, eyes shimmering faintly. I wanted to show you part of my childhood. Liam felt his chest tighten with warmth. Raven, I'm honored. She lifted the lantern into her hands. It pulsed gently, reacting to her touch. Then she whispered into it, soft, melodic syllables in her native language, rolling like wind chimes and night breeze. The lantern's glow shifted. Images flickered inside like smoke becoming shape. He saw a young fox girl playing in a moonlit forest. Raven, smaller, ears too big for her head, tail a fluff ball, chasing fireflies with tiny claws. He saw her fall, scrape her knee, then get scooped up by an older foxwoman with kind eyes and a long braid. Raven's mother. The lantern shimmered again, another memory. Raven as a teen, wearing her first choker, experimenting with makeup in the reflection of a lake. Laughing with friends, running through moonlit festivals, curling up with books taller than she was. Then, the glow faded. The lantern drifted gently back to the floor. Liam swallowed. Raven, that was beautiful. It's silly, she murmured, embarrassed. I just thought maybe you'd want to understand me more. I do. She looked at him, eyes wide. Then, will you show me something too? He nodded, heart thumping. He picked up the lantern. It felt warm, alive. He spoke softly into it, letting his thoughts gather into something simple and honest. A memory of the first evening he moved in, her surprise at the door, her nervous smile, how her tail brushed his hip when she walked past, how he'd felt something spark that he didn't want to admit yet. The lantern pulsed, bright amber for a moment, then faded. Raven stared at it, stunned. That memory is of me, she whispered. He nodded. Yeah. Her ears slowly rose. Her tail uncurled slightly, trembled, then wrapped around his back, pulling him just a little closer. That's a very intimate memory, she said. It felt right. Her breath caught softly, not startled, not afraid, just moved. She reached up and touched his cheek with the tips of her claws, feather light. No one has ever shared a memory like that with me, she murmured. Not that kind. He leaned into her touch. Then I'm glad I did. The moment stretched, warm and glowing. But then Raven suddenly straightened, as if she remembered something. Wait here. She scrambled to her dresser, rummaging through a drawer, tail twitching wildly. After several clinks and rattles, she turned around holding a small black box. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. Inside was a silver bracelet with crescent moon charms and tiny obsidian beads. She stepped toward him, suddenly self-conscious. This is a Vulpine half-bond token, she explained softly. It doesn't mean everything yet, but it means I trust you and that I want to keep learning you. Liam's chest tightened. Raven, are you sure? Her ears flattened slightly, not in fear, but vulnerability. Only if you want it. He didn't hesitate. I do. Her tail froze mid-wave. You do? Yeah. Raven's breath trembled. She gently clasped the bracelet around his wrist. Her claws were so careful, precise, like she was afraid he might vanish if she touched too hard. Once it clicked into place, she stared at it with quiet awe. It looks right on you, she whispered. He smiled at her. It feels right. Her ears rose fully, a sign he'd learned meant pure happiness. The moment shifted again, not dramatic, not explosive. Just a warm, quiet drift into something deeper. Later that night, they sat on the couch listening to music again. But this time, Raven didn't hover near him. She curled up next to him, actually curled like a fox in a den, her legs folded, her tail looped over both their laps, her head resting against his shoulder. She didn't ask permission. She didn't apologize. She simply settled there, trusting him with her whole body, her whole presence. Liam? She murmured drowsily. Yeah? If humans give gifts that mean something, is there one you would give me? He thought for a long moment. Then he reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. My gift is simple, he said. I'll be here. With you. Raven didn't speak for a while, but her tail tightened around him. Her body pressed a little closer. Her breathing softened, warm against his shoulder. When she did finally speak, it was barely audible. Then maybe, she whispered, I won't be scared of loving you anymore. She fell asleep like that, wrapped around him, trusting him completely, while the lantern orb glowed softly from down the hall. And Liam knew, without needing magic or ritual, that he was already hers in more ways than he could explain. Liam woke the next morning with something warm, soft, and slightly heavy draped over his chest. For a moment, he panicked. Had he fallen asleep on the couch again? Then he looked down. Raven was curled against him, still fast asleep, her tail wrapped around his waist like a blanket made of living firelight. Her fingers were lightly gripping his shirt, her face tucked under his chin. Her breathing was slow, peaceful, deeply trusting. He didn't move, didn't dare. Every part of him felt suspended, caught between surprise and awe, like he was holding a moment he wasn't supposed to disturb. Eventually, Raven stirred, ears twitching. She blinked her silver-amber eyes open, sleepy and unguarded. Then awareness hit her like a comet. Her ears shot straight up, her tail tensed around him. And she realized exactly where she was. Her entire face flushed a deep, glowing orange beneath her fur. Good morning, she blurted, trying to untangle herself from him with the desperate grace of someone attempting to escape their own feelings. Hey, Liam said gently, catching her hand before she could bolt. It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. She froze. Not because she was scared. He'd seen that before. This was different. This was a moment where she wanted to stay, but didn't know if she was allowed to. She looked at him, voice barely above a whisper. Liam, I didn't mean to fall asleep like that. It was nice, he said. Really nice. Her ears twitched twice, once in shock, once in something softer. You liked it? I did. Raven stared at him for a long moment, searching his face like she was trying to decode some secret human emotion. When she spoke again, her voice trembled with a question she didn't know how to ask. Do you like being close to me? He swallowed. The truth felt huge, terrifying. But it was right there, waiting. Yeah, he said softly. I really do. Her breath hitched, not fear, not embarrassment, but something deeper. She slowly lowered herself back onto the couch, sitting only inches away. I keep trying to pretend you don't feel like this, she admitted. That I don't feel like this. But every day it gets harder to ignore. Liam turned toward her. Raven, wait. She held up a hand, claws trembling slightly. I need to say it before I lose my courage. He nodded. Raven took a slow, shaky breath. Humans, you're direct. You say things out loud. You take risks. Vulpines. We're cautious. We hint. We wait. We look for signs. And you've given me signs I didn't understand at first. She curled her tail around herself, eyes shining. You make space for me. You're gentle with me. You smile when I walk into a room. You treat my culture like it matters. You don't laugh at my rituals or my emotions. You look at me like I'm someone worth choosing. You are, he said immediately. Raven's breath caught again, this time a tiny, wounded sound, like no one had told her that before. She scooted closer, knees touching his. Her claws brushed his hand, hesitant but hopeful. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. We can figure it out together. Her hand tightened around his. But, she continued, voice thin, before I let myself feel more, I need to know something important. Liam leaned in. Anything. Raven swallowed hard. What do you feel for me? There it was. The question she'd been circling for weeks. The one she was terrified to hear the answer to. Liam didn't rush it. He didn't joke or downplay or dodge. He reached out and gently held her cheek, thumb brushing the soft fur near her ear. Raven shivered at the touch, eyes fluttering closed for a moment before she looked at him directly. Raven, he said quietly, I care about you. A lot. I'm drawn to you. You make me laugh. You make the apartment feel warm. I think about you even when I'm not here. And being close to you feels right. Her ears rose slowly, trembling. So yes, he added softly, I have feelings for you. Raven made a tiny, broken sound, half relief, half joy, half disbelief. She leaned forward, forehead nearly touching his chest. I was so scared you'd say no, she whispered. I couldn't say no. Why? Because, he said, lifting her chin gently so she'd meet his gaze, I'm falling for you. The world became impossibly still. Raven didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't move. Her tail uncurled slowly, then wrapped around him again, firmer this time. She moved closer until she was kneeling between his legs, her hands gripping the fabric of his shirt. Liam, her voice broke. You can't say things like that unless you mean them. I mean every word. She stared at him, eyes shiny and wide, as if trying to memorize every part of his face. Then she lifted a hand and pressed her palm against his heart. Your heartbeat, she whispered. It changes when I touch you. Yours does too. Her lips parted in shock. You can hear it? No, he said with a small smile. I can feel it. Raven's breath trembled, her ears dipping, her whole body leaning closer, like gravity had finally claimed her. Liam? May I do something? She whispered. Something vulpine? Anything. She cupped his face with both hands, claws gentle, palms warm, and leaned forward. Her forehead touched his. A soft, intimate press, a sacred gesture, a silent vow. She whispered a single word in her language. Too soft for him to understand, but powerful enough to make her tail wrap around him fully. When she pulled back, she looked almost dazed. That, she said softly, means I want to be close, to be more. Liam exhaled slowly, overwhelmed in the best way. Does it mean you want to kiss me? Raven stared at him. Then her cheeks flushed so deeply her fur glowed warm. I've been wanting to, she admitted, for weeks. Silence stretched between them, charged, tender, trembling. Then finally she leaned in. Their lips brushed, soft, tentative, electric. She gasped quietly at the contact, claws curling into his shirt as she kissed him again. This time slower, deeper, letting herself feel everything she'd been afraid to name. Liam slid a hand around her waist. Raven melted into him, tail tightening like a warm embrace. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her head against his chest, catching her breath. Liam, she whispered, I don't think I can go back to pretending we're just roommates. Good, he murmured, stroking her hair. I don't want to pretend anymore. She lifted her face just enough to meet his eyes. Then don't let go, she whispered. Not now. He didn't, and neither did she. Raven didn't let go of him for a long time, not because she was afraid, but because she seemed terrified of what her heart might do if she stepped even an inch away. Liam held her, feeling the slow, trembling rhythm of her breathing against his chest. Every few moments she would shift slightly, as if confirming he was still there, still real, still choosing her. When she finally spoke again, her voice was soft and unsteady. "There's something I need to tell you," she whispered. "About us. About what this means for me." Liam gently brushed his thumb along her cheek. "Take your time." Raven sat back just enough to look at him fully. Her eyes were luminous, uncertain, yet fiercely sincere. Vulpines don't fall in love easily. We hide our emotions. We run from them. We wrap them in rituals and symbols and moonlight because feelings scare us. "I get that," he said softly. "But when we do fall..." She swallowed, placing her hand over his heart again. "It's deep, and it's permanent." He felt her claws tremble through his shirt. "I don't want to scare you away," she whispered. "I know humans have different ways, different stages, different everything. But for my kind, letting someone in like this, it's rare, and only done when we truly want to bond." He held her hand, steadying her trembling fingers. "Raven, I'm not scared." She let out a shaky laugh. "I am." He tilted her chin up. "Why?" Her answer was barely audible. "Because I don't know how to unlove someone once I start." Liam felt something in his chest pull tight. He leaned his forehead against hers. "Then you don't ever have to." Her breath hitched, and a small, shaky sound escaped her lips. Something like relief mixed with fear and hope. Her tail curled around his thigh, gripping lightly, instinctively. "Liam," she murmured, eyes searching his. "May I ask you something? Vulnerable? Anything?" "What do humans do?" she whispered. "When they want someone to stay. When they want to share their life, their space, their everything." He smiled gently. "Usually. We talk about it. We make promises. We choose each other on purpose. And if someone breaks that promise, then they were never worth it." Raven blinked, surprised by the firmness in his tone. "So, humans don't bond easily either?" she asked softly. "We do. But the good ones, the ones who care, they choose carefully." Her ears rose at that, slow and hopeful. "And you chose me?" "I choose you every day," he said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "And I'm not going anywhere." Raven stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Not the human who moved in for cheap rent, but someone she could trust her whole heart with. Then she took a slow breath and finally said the words she'd been holding back. "Liam, I think I love you." The world paused. Her chest rose fast, like she was bracing for rejection or heartbreak. Liam didn't make her wait. "I love you too." Her eyes widened. Tears formed instantly, bright little gems gathering at the corners of her lashes. You do?" "I do." Raven made a soft, broken noise before lunging forward and wrapping her arms around him, almost knocking him backward onto the couch. She pressed her face into his neck, her tail curling around him entirely, holding him as if trying to anchor herself to the moment. "You have no idea what that means in my language," she whispered, voice muffled but full of emotion. "You just said something. Something so important. Then tell me." She pulled back, wiping her eyes quickly with the back of her hand. In Valen dialect, to love someone means you see their spirit, all of it, and accept it. "I accept all of you," he said simply. Her breath faltered again, but she managed a fragile smile. Then I want to do something for you, to show you what this means for us." She rose slowly from the couch, tugging gently at his hand. "Come to my room," she said softly. Liam's heart jumped, not out of lust, but out of the profound intimacy in her tone. She led him down the hallway, her fingers trembling in his. Her room was already glowing with violet light, the lantern orb hovering lazily near the ceiling. She guided him to sit on her bed, soft, warm, layered in dark blankets. She stood before him, tail gently swaying, eyes bright and vulnerable. "There is a ceremony," she whispered, voice shaking. "Simple one, not the final bond, but the opening of the heart." She pressed her palms together, claws tapping lightly. "It's called the Velena. It means sharing breath. It's our way of showing trust, intimacy, love." Liam nodded, heart pounding. "Show me." Raven stepped close, so close his knees brushed her thighs. She leaned down, placing her hands on his shoulders. Her breath warmed his lips, her forehead touching his lightly. "This isn't about passion," she whispered. "It's about knowing each other." And then, slowly, she brushed her lips against his. Soft, deliberate, full of meaning. Not a hungry kiss, not a frantic one, but one that said, "I choose you. I trust you. I am yours." Liam kissed her back gently, hands resting on her waist. Raven shivered under his touch, tail tightening around his leg. Then the kiss deepened. Still slow, still warm, still sacred. She leaned into him, pressing her body softly against his, her hands sliding to cradle his face. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his once more. "That was the Velena," she whispered. "The first step toward being life bonded." Liam exhaled shakily. "Raven, you don't have to decide anything now," she hurried. "It's just a beginning, a promise that we want to explore love. Together." He reached up, sliding his hand along her cheek, feeling the soft fur under his palm. "Then I want that promise too." She inhaled sharply, relief and joy hitting her all at once. Then she climbed into his lap, wrapping her arms around him in a tight embrace. "Then let me give you one more thing," she whispered against his ear. "A piece of myself." What followed was a long, tender night, full of warm touches, slow kisses, whispered confessions, and gentle closeness. No rush, no fear, just two people choosing each other, learning each other, loving each other with quiet honesty. When she finally lay beside him, head on his chest, tail wrapped securely around him, she whispered one last thing before sleep claimed her. "Liam, you're my heart now." Raven didn't wake suddenly the next morning. She drifted up from sleep slowly, stretching like a cat until her tail brushed along Liam's leg. Then she froze, remembering exactly where she was. Her eyes blinked open, silver amber and hazy. Her cheek was resting against his bare chest, her hand curled lightly around his ribs, her tail wrapped securely around his thigh like it had anchored her there all night. She looked up at him through the curtain of her messy hair. "You're still here?" she whispered, voice soft with disbelief. Liam smiled sleepily. "Where else would I be?" A warm flush spread across her face, hidden partly by fur but unmistakable in her glowing cheeks. She pressed closer for a moment, testing, confirming, then relaxed into him with a small contented hum. It wasn't a purr, not quite, but close. He brushed his fingers through her wild orange hair, feeling her melt against his touch. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Raven nodded, tail curling tighter around him. "Better than okay." Then she paused. Scared, but good scared. Scared of what? She hesitated, searching for the right words. "When I woke up, a part of me thought last night was just a dream. That I imagined the things you said. That I imagined you wanting me." Liam tilted her chin so she'd meet his eyes. "You didn't imagine any of it." Her breath trembled. "Promise?" "I promise." She closed her eyes, absorbing that like warmth. When she reopened them, she looked steadier, braver. "Liam, there's something else," she whispered. "Vulpines. We have one final symbol of choosing someone. It's not the life bond, just the moment before. the moment where we admit what's already true. He nodded, listening. It's called the Veilshan. It means the naming of the heart. What does that involve? Her tail twitched, embarrassed. We say the name of the one we love, out loud, without fear. Liam swallowed. And if you do that, it means we've chosen them. Her voice trembled. It means our heart has already picked its match. He felt something warm bloom in his chest. Raven, you don't have to. I want to, she whispered. Then, soft as a breath. But I need you to hear it. Really hear it. She shifted, climbing fully into his lap, straddling him with her knees on either side. Her hands cupped his face gently. Her eyes held his with a depth that made his heart throb. Liam, she whispered, voice quivering. My heart has chosen you. She inhaled once, shaky, vulnerable, and then spoke. Liam Veilshan. The phrase hung in the air like a spark. Liam didn't know the exact translation, but he understood the meaning instantly. She said his name the way one would recite a vow. Raven, he breathed, stunned. That was beautiful. She lowered her forehead to his, her breath warm on his lips. Now you say mine, if you want to. There was only one answer. Liam slid his hands down her sides, pulling her closer. His voice was quiet, steady, full of conviction. Raven Veilshan. Her breath caught, sharp, emotional. Her ears twitched violently. Her tail wrapped around his waist in a rush, instinctive and overwhelming. She kissed him hard, no hesitation, no worry, just pure emotion. The kiss cracked open something inside her, and all the layers she usually hid fell away. She pressed into him desperately, passionately, her hands threading through his hair, her tail tightening like she was claiming him. He kissed her back with equal intensity, holding her firmly, guiding her gently down onto the bed as she pulled him with her. There was nothing frantic or rushed, just need, closeness, love. Her fingers traced the lines of his arms, his back. His hands explored her curves with reverence, memorizing every warm, soft, trembling part of her. She gasped softly, his name whispered between kisses, between breaths. Liam. Liam. Her legs wrapped around his waist. Her claws traced gentle paths down his spine. Their mouths met again and again, deepening each time until the boundary between them blurred. Every touch was filled with so much emotion, it felt like the air itself vibrated. Every kiss said you matter to me. Every breath said I choose you. And when they finally slowed, lying tangled together in the warm mess of blankets and shadows, Raven curled fully against him, half on top of him, half embracing him, tail draped protectively over his hip. She nuzzled his chest softly, lips brushing his skin with a tender, lingering affection. I'm yours, she whispered, voice quiet but unwavering. Not because my species says so, not because I'm supposed to, but because I love you. Liam stroked her hair and held her close. I love you too. Her eyes fluttered shut, but she didn't sleep. She just basked in him, his warmth, his scent, his heartbeat, letting her guard down completely for the first time in her life. You know, she murmured sleepily, in Veilshan culture, falling asleep in someone's arms after the Veilshan means fate approves. Does it? Mm-hmm. Her tail curled around him like a ribbon. Fate approves of us. She snuggled deeper into him, her body fitting perfectly against his. And so do I. Liam kissed the top of her head. Raven let out the softest, happiest sound he'd ever heard from her. A quiet, breathy murmur as she drifted into sleep. And as she rested peacefully against him, warm and trusting, he realized something profound. He hadn't just fallen in love with a goth fox girl. He'd become part of her world, her rituals, her culture, her heart, and she had become the most important part of his. The morning sunlight filtered softly through Raven's curtains, casting violet shadows across the room. Liam woke first, only because Raven was wrapped around him like a sleepy, clingy blanket with claws. Her tail draped across his hip, one leg tangled with his, her face nuzzled into the crook of his neck. He hadn't known someone could cuddle this intensely. He also hadn't known he would love it this much. Her breathing warmed his skin, steady and peaceful. He brushed a hand through her messy hair, and she let out a tiny, unconscious groan and burrowed even closer. A few seconds later, her ears twitched. Another twitch. Then she stirred, blinking up at him with sleep-blurred eyes. Morning," she murmured, voice rough and incredibly soft. "Morning," he whispered back. Raven didn't move away. Instead, she nuzzled his chest again, tail swishing lazily in a happy rhythm. For a long moment, she simply lay there, letting the reality of him seep back into her senses. Then she looked up, studying him with a seriousness that he hadn't expected. "You're still here?" she said again, as if she needed confirmation. "I'm here," he assured her. "Good." She pressed her forehead to his shoulder, letting out a slow breath. "I don't wake up well if the person I love isn't nearby." Liam felt warmth bloom inside him. "Is that a foxwoman thing?" "It's a Raven thing," she corrected softly. "I sleep best in your arms." He tightened his hold around her waist. "Then that's where you'll wake up." Her tail coiled around him instantly, reflexive, emotional, protective. She looked overwhelmed for a moment, ears trembling slightly. "Liam," she whispered, tracing a small circle on his chest with one claw tip. "I've never had someone like you. Someone who made me feel safe. Someone who stayed." "I'm not going anywhere," he said again, stroking her cheek with the backs of his fingers. "I know," she whispered, "and that scares me, because I don't want to lose you." "You won't." She smiled, small, fragile, but bright. "Then I guess we should think about what comes next." Liam blinked. "Next?" Raven sat up a little, hair falling around her shoulders in wild, gorgeous chaos. She pulled the blankets with her, modest even now despite everything they'd shared. "Well," she said slowly, "for starters, we can't exactly hide this forever." "You want people to know?" She hesitated, twisting the edge of the blanket between her fingers. "I want to hold your hand outside this room. I want to sit next to you on the couch without pretending I'm doing it by accident. I want to cook, badly, for you in the kitchen without worrying I'm crossing some line." "You can do all of that," Liam said gently. "I want to kiss you goodnight," she whispered, cheeks warming at her own boldness. "And good morning." "And good afternoon?" She swatted his shoulder, flustered. "You know what I mean." He pulled her into his lap again, and she settled there instantly, her tail looping around him. "So," he murmured, "you want us to be official?" Raven swallowed, her voice barely audible. "I want us to be whatever makes you stay." He took her face in his hands, guiding her gaze to his. "Raven, I'm already staying." Her expression softened, deeply, beautifully. "Then yes," she whispered. "I want us to be official." She kissed him, slow and sweet this time, her fingers brushing down his spine. When she finally pulled back, she looked thoughtful. "Liam?" "Yeah." "Can we make breakfast together?" He blinked, surprised by how meaningful her tone was. "Of course. It's just—" She fiddled with her choker, ears dipping. "That's something vulpine pairs do. Cook in the same space, move around each other, share smells, share warmth. It's like a domestic ritual." He smiled warmly. Then let's do it. She grinned, a real one, wide and bright and unguarded. They slipped out of bed together, Raven tugging on a loose off-shoulder sweater that made her look impossibly adorable in her sleepy state. Her hair was an absolute disaster, but she didn't bother fixing it. She walked beside him to the kitchen, tail swishing lightly. He cracked eggs into a pan while she sliced fruit with careful focus. Liam stepped behind her to grab a plate from the cabinet. She jumped slightly, then relaxed, leaning back against him instinctively, her tail brushing across his leg. He paused, just long enough to wrap an arm around her waist. "You okay?" he whispered against her ear. "Mm-hmm." Her voice was barely a sound. "This is nice. Being close? Being yours." He kissed the side of her head. She shivered in a way that told him she was very much not used to affection like this. But she wanted it, craved it. Once breakfast was done, they sat together at the table. Raven scooted her chair closer, pretending she needed room for her tail, but he knew better. She pressed her knee to his under the table, cheeks warm as she took bites of her toast. "Hey," Liam said gently, "can I ask you something?" She looked up, a piece of fruit halfway to her mouth. "Anything." "What does bondmate mean, exactly?" Raven nearly choked on her fruit. She coughed, tail bristling in surprise. Why are you asking that? You brought up rituals, choosing, naming the heart." She flushed a deeper shade of orange. "Bondmates is the final stage, the deepest. It means you're partners for life. You share a home, a future, everything. And is that something you want? One day?" She stared at him for a long moment, eyes widening, ears twitching wildly. Then she whispered, "Yes." A heartbeat passed. Then, "But only with you." Liam felt his breath catch. Raven reached across the table and took his hand, her claws grazing his skin with gentle care. "Don't be scared," she whispered. "We don't have to rush. I just want you to know where my heart is going." He squeezed her hand. "I'm heading the same direction." Raven froze, then gave the softest, happiest smile he'd ever seen from her. Small, bright, shining. "Then," she whispered, tail curling around his ankle under the table, "we're already halfway there." Days passed, and their new rhythm settled into something so natural, it felt like it had always been waiting for them. Two people weaving their lives together without fear, without hesitation, without pretending anymore. Liam found himself looking forward to every moment he spent with Raven, even the quiet ones, especially the quiet ones. Like the night she curled up on their couch wearing one of his hoodies, absolutely swimming in it, while they watched a cheesy sci-fi movie she pretended not to like, but secretly adored. Her tail rested across both their laps like a shared blanket, warm and soft and unconsciously protective. Or the morning she brewed coffee for him for the first time. She struggled, a lot. The counter somehow ended up dusted with coffee grounds. The machine beeped at her aggressively. She hissed back at it, but she still brought him a mug of coffee and tried to act casual. "For you," she'd said, holding the mug with both hands like it was a sacred offering. "I made it without causing structural damage." "It smells perfect," he said. Her ears perked so high they almost brushed the cabinet. "Wait, really?" He took a sip. It was terrible. Absolutely, unquestionably terrible. But the look on her face, hopeful, proud, anxious, made the bitterness worth it. He smiled. It was great. And Raven lit up. He still drank the entire cup. But their cozy domestic routine only made the deeper truth more obvious. They weren't just dating, they were building a life together. One evening, after a long day at work, Liam came home to find the apartment filled with soft candlelight. Raven stood near the window, looking out at the city skyline, her silhouette long and elegant against the fading dusk. She turned when he entered, her expression softer than he'd ever seen it. "Welcome home," she murmured. Something about the way she said it, quiet, warm, full of meaning, made his chest tighten. He set his bag down and walked toward her. "You decorated?" he said gently. "Mm-hmm." She gestured lightly at the candles. "Humans do mood lighting, right? I thought I'd try. I wanted the place to feel nicer for you." "You already make it feel nicer," he said, stepping closer. Raven's ears dipped shyly, but she didn't look away. She looked down at her hands instead, fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "There's something I want to ask," she whispered, tail curling nervously behind her. "What is it?" She hesitated, clearly battling between fear and hope, before finally looking up at him with those luminous silver-amber eyes. "Liam, do you want to stay here?" He blinked. "I already live here." "No," she said quickly. "I don't mean as my roommate, I mean..." She swallowed. "Do you want this to be your home with me? Not temporarily, not until rent gets easier, just with me. Because you choose it." Liam felt the weight of her question. It was more than asking him to stay. It was asking him to belong. He stepped forward, gently taking her hands in his. Raven's breath caught, her fingers curling instinctively around his. "Raven," he said softly, "this already feels like home, because you're here." Her ears rose a little. "Really? Really? I'm not going anywhere." She exhaled, a shaky breath she'd clearly been holding for far too long. She leaned her forehead against his chest, her body relaxing into him. "Good," she whispered, "because I don't want a future without you." Liam brushed his fingers through her hair. "Then you won't have one." After a quiet moment, Raven pulled back slightly, her cheeks warm and her eyes shining. "Liam, there's one more thing." He raised an eyebrow. "More than asking me to stay forever?" Raven huffed, flustered. "It's not, yes, but also something else." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Her hands shook just a little as she opened it. Inside was a matching bracelet to the one she'd given him earlier. Silver with obsidian beads and a crescent-shaped charm. "This," she whispered, "is the paired half of your gift. It's meant to be worn when two people are becoming something more, when their hearts begin aligning." She looked up at him with nervous hope. "If you wear this, it means we're choosing the same path." He took the bracelet gently. "Raven, I'm not asking for a life bond yet," she added quickly, ears flicking. "Not even the ritual, just your intention, that you want to walk forward together." Liam didn't hesitate, not for a second. He slid the bracelet onto her wrist. Raven gasped, soft, breathless, disbelieving. Her tail flared, then curled around his leg with pure emotion she couldn't hide. "You're sure?" she whispered, voice trembling. "I'm completely sure," he said. Raven stared at the bracelet like it was the most precious object she'd ever held. Her eyes shimmered with something fragile and overflowing. Then she reached up and kissed him. Not the hesitant kisses they shared at first, not the emotional ones from the night before. This kiss was slow, intentional, full of certainty. A promise, a beginning, a future in motion. Her hands slid into his hair, his arms wrapped around her waist. Their bodies pressed together in a soft, intimate embrace that spoke louder than any ritual could. When they finally parted, Raven rested her head on his chest. "Liam, thank you," she murmured, "for choosing me, for loving me, for staying." He kissed her forehead. "For all of that, I'll always stay." Raven closed her eyes, tail curling around him delicately, as if embracing him with every part of herself. "Then," she whispered, "this isn't just an apartment anymore." She lifted her head, meeting his gaze with a gentle smile that reached all the way to her shining eyes. "This is our den now." Liam laughed softly as he pulled her into a warm hug. "Yeah," he murmured. "Our den." Raven pressed closer, her voice a quiet, contented whisper against his neck. "And I'm never letting you go." Together, they stood in the glow of candlelight, wrapped in warmth, trust, and the unmistakable feeling of home. Their future wasn't rushed, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't scripted, but it was theirs. And Raven, goth, fox girl, moonlight singer, anxious heart, fierce lover, knew with absolute certainty that she had found the human she wanted to walk beside for the rest of her life. The one she called her heart, her Liam. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe. There are plenty more human-alien romances, HFY adventures, and heartwarming tales on the way.